morning, everyone. Look at this wonderful crowd. I'm Jennifer Romanecki, President and CEO of Maurice Selby Botanical Gardens. And we're so thrilled to have all of you here today to hear today's botanical briefing. What's up, Botany? So it's great that so many of you want to hear from our Botany team. I think you'll really enjoy getting some inside knowledge about what our incredible team does. And I just wanted to take a minute. Did all of you see my announcement about phase 2? Yeah. Woo! Okay. So we're really excited to be blazing forward with the second phase of the master plan, which many of you know focuses on building a first-in-the-world hurricane-resilient conservatory complex for our living collections, along with a learning pavilion for our education programs and new garden features. So what I sent out the other day, just to rehash it, if any of you didn't see it, but basically we have begun vertical construction. And we are so thrilled that we've secured the financing we need for the project. Some of you might remember we did bond financing for phase 1. We've now executed our bond financing for phase 2. And so we have the cash we need in hand to construct phase 2. And then we're more than 98% privately funded. So we are almost at the total goal. So thank you. So the goal for phase 2 was 60.9 million, and we're now over the 98% mark there. Yes, really exciting. And between phases 1 and 2, we've now raised almost $130 million, all private philanthropy. Really amazing, and we're so excited. So phase 2 will open in November 2028. That is not far away, and I'm so excited for all of you here today what you're gonna get to see, because you know, basically for those of you who've been coming to Selby for years, we can only display less than 5% of our living plant collection in the conservatory at any one time. This incredible crystal palace that we're building is going to allow us to display almost 100% of our living collection. And we have more than 20,000 wild collected plants. So it's going to be amazing, truly a living museum. And you might have seen that we're actually pursuing a trademark on the design of the new conservatory, because this has never been done before. The project passed what's called the missile test, and it's basically where a maquette of the materials built. 2x4s are launched at it at 150 miles per hour in order to simulate hurricane conditions and meet Florida building code. So we passed all of that, and as a result, we're seeking a trademark on the Selby system. So it's going to be really exciting. Thank you all for your incredible support on this journey. And the good news is everything that's open today will remain open throughout phase 2 construction. So like when you came in, you saw the construction fences up, and we're kind of rerouting everyone through the gardens in the reverse order. But you know, that's the extent of the disruption. And so I'm thrilled to say we'll be open for you all throughout construction during this 2-year period, which I think will honestly happen in the blink of an eye, for sure. So now, on to today's lecture. So you're going to get an exciting update from our Botany team. And, you know, basically, you've probably seen some of them, but maybe not all of them. And Bruce Holst, our Vice President for Botany, has been an incredible leader throughout Selby Gardens history. So Bruce has been here for more than 30 years. Yeah, more than 30 years. So that's more than half the life of Selby Gardens. since we were founded about 51 years ago. And so Bruce has been an incredible champion of our work in botany. You know, we are known as the only botanical garden in the world to focus on the study of epiphytes or air plants that grow in the tree canopy. And Bruce's dedication to this niche in the world of plant research has been incredible. And as a result, we are on our own playing field. And so with that, I would love to introduce Bruce, who will introduce the whole team. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's a tough act to follow. And what I'm most proud about today is that I have been able to herd 5 different cats, including 6, including myself, into the same place at the same time. Because our team is traveling, they're doing research, they're going to conferences all around the world, and it's really hard to find that day where we can all be together, and especially to present what we've been doing to you. This is the first time we've tried something like this, so bear with us. We may have some little gaps here and there, but the team has really worked hard to try to produce their participation and their thought on what we're doing, the research that we're doing, collections that we do. So I just want to I'm going to step back just a little bit and give you, because I don't recognize a lot of you. This is so exciting to see so many new faces. I love it. And but I want to give you, if you don't have that historical background, I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 slides of a little bit of history. So let's go. So these guys are the John and the Lou and the Sean and the of the past. So right now, they were the founders, the intellectual and founding directors of Selby Gardens. Kiat Tan, Cal Dodson, and Carl Lure. They're the ones who built this by hand 53 years ago, 54 or something like that. And so we're just very excited, our team, to follow on their footsteps and use what they developed, the gardens, the history, the collections. They made the first collections here, and really phenomenal. They started from scratch. There was nothing here, basically. Marie had a wonderful garden around her house, but the rest of the property was not really well developed. So they encountered this space. They said, what are we going to do with it? So here they are building new greenhouses. They had to do all sorts of landscaping and work. And then they needed to get out into the field to make those first collections. They really needed to populate the spaces with plants and get out there to document plant diversity and distribution like we still do today. So we really are carrying on a phenomenal tradition of this institution to understand plant diversity and distribution. So I just, the botany department, not all institutions have those, but this is kind of what we do. So we study plant diversity and distribution, as I said, on a local through an international scale. And that is really the understanding where plants grow, how diverse they are, how many there are, what threats do they face. That's key information for understanding plant conservation. So we also, if we're out there, we're going to collect plants. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today is being out there and understanding and collecting. It's becoming increasingly difficult, as you may imagine, to bring plants from foreign sources into the United States. But we work around those, and we work with the governments of those institutions to make that happen. So, and that's why you see such a vibrant, incredible collection when you walk through, especially the greenhouses. These are plants that you won't see at any other botanical institution. It's really a special collection. And we use our expertise to promote the gardens internationally. We give lectures, we attend conferences, we work very closely with teams in other countries. And that really sets us apart from many other other gardens that don't have that botanical thrust. So all of our goal really, at least mine personally, I would say, is to promote the conservation of plants in their natural habitats. So protecting natural habitats, promoting the understanding and the beauty of nature is really what makes us really tick, I think. And we're working to train the next generation of botanists. So we probably have some young botanists here, I hope. I know I see one over there. So that we can retire comfortably knowing that this next generation is doing their job. So our current staff, and you're going to hear from each of them. This is, I was talking about the cats. Here they are, and to try to bring them together. But they're very interested and very devoted, passionate people for plant conservation and understanding that the botanical sciences. So Trent, John, Julie, myself, Lou, and Sean are here, and they're going to be introducing themselves briefly to you as we go through. So I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can. Oh, and our goal is to hire another full-time botanist in the coming year. That's huge. That is huge. Once we do that, we'll have the most complete team that Gardens has ever had in terms of the breadth and depth of their work. So it's really exciting. So epiphytes, do I need to tell you what an epiphyte is? No, probably not. Plants that live on other plants. About 10% of all vascular plants or land plants are epiphytic. They're plants that grow upon other plants, but they're not parasitic on the plants. And they survive through a number of different evolutionary adaptations. It's like succulents, working with insects that orchid, you see on the right, the chamber's hollowed out. So there's ants that live in there, and they help to protect the plant from herbivory. And bromeliads are really the crowning epiphyte adaptations with their scales, those silvery scales that are able to bring in water and nutrients through rainfall. So it's really a unique group of plants, and we're the champions. Right? To give you an idea of the scale of our effort, you can see a lot of this is expeditions, herbarium exchange, and live plant exchange. So you see we're largely focused on New World areas. The American tropics are where we're kind of our backyard, and it's the area, the richest epiphyte diversity in the world is right there, especially in the Andes, in southern Central America. And but we also work with many other botanical gardens to exchange plants and exchange herbarium specimens, which enrich each of our collections. So it's really a great thing. And so after 53 years of collecting and studying and documenting plants, well, what do we do with them all? And just up to a couple of years ago, we were keeping them in pretty, I would say, totally substandard, but not the best conditions for the collections. So I was, I'm just going to bring some tears to my eyes right now, but having now the Steinwachs Plant Science Center has really dramatically changed how we operate and how we preserve and safeguard these collections for many, many years to come. So it's very exciting. Our team is all together now, working with all of our collections surrounding us. It's really a much better, the best sort of working conditions that I have seen in my 31 years. So we have, in the collections are, one of the major collections, we'll go through a couple of them, is the Spirit Laboratory Collection. It's comprised of flowers or even whole plants in liquids. And you see the formulation there, 70% alcohol, 27% water, 3% glycerin. And these will last for a very, very long time, and they allow us to study the three-dimensional features of the plant. Whereas in the herbarium that we'll talk about in a minute, those all go two-dimensional. So this is super important for orchids. And orchid scientists like Lou, he barely collects herbarium specimens because they're very difficult to then return to three-dimensionality. So it's super important. And this is the second largest collection of this type in the world, Only Kew Gardens has more. And here are just a couple of images of those. So really a valuable part of our collection. And we also have the Elaine Merribb Herbarium and Laboratory. So we're going to mostly think about the laboratory is very important for our work in studying conservation and also phylogeny, the relationships of plants. It's about 125,000 specimens or so, which is relatively small. The large herbaria in the world have over 8-10 million, but ours is focused, and it's well known because of that focus on epiphytic plants. So our orchid, bromeliad, gesneriid collections are very well renowned in the world. So our living collection that most of you know about, and as Jennifer was saying, before phase 2, we could only display a very small percentage of that collection. And that's where the real jewels of our collection lie, our living collection. You know, there's beautiful plants outside, but in those greenhouses that we're going to build, and we're going to be able to augment what we can grow through a cool growing house, montane house, where any of those plants that we want to put in there would not survive here in Sarasota. It's just the nights are too hot. So here are a few of them from our collection. I picked bromeliads because orchids. It's kind of, but we have orchids, we have bromeliads, we have gesneriads, we have ferns. We have a great representation, the best in the world, of lowland epiphytes. And you'd be surprised at how many different plant families or have epiphytic members, like the blueberry, the coffee, the sunflower families have epiphytes. So we have probably the least familiar collection that we have here is our bibliographic collection. We have the Natalie McCulloch Library. And when I was kind of putting this together, I realized that there's so much in there, and we need help. And so if any of you out there are archivists or like to work in libraries, please see us after this talk. Really, it's a phenomenal collection. And now we have recently, through a very generous donation from a local family, we have 3 new books that bring us back 100 centuries before what we had. So we have the Kruderbrook, 1546, and these other herbals. These are all beautiful illustrated wood block cut illustrations. And here's we have 3,200. I'm trying to throw some numbers in here, but I'll summarize those at the end. Antique botanical prints, the map cabinets. Here's a really a fun one that we found. Trent helped find this 1776 map of the southern British colonies. That's hilarious. It's in beautiful condition too. And then we have an area with rolling shelving that we can store a lot more material in a very dense space. So there we have, let's see, let me go back. Yeah, we have the cereals. We have a unique collection called the Identification Center files. Each of those folders that you see there on the lower left, those are all individual species folders. So everything known at the time was photocopied and put into these folders. So it's a very valuable resource for botanists. And if you want to see it, you're welcome. It's open by appointment, and we welcome you to visit and to volunteer. And you can go online to just do an internet search, Selby Gardens Library, and you'll come up with these 2 buttons here, view our online catalog. We have a mobile app as well. Works great when you're in the library. So you go in there, you click on that, and then you'll get into the catalog, and you can search that, of course, from anywhere. And I enjoy this. Trent helped me with this, pull this together. So the 2 last books that we entered into the catalog was In Bloom, How Plants Changed Our World, with a beautiful article by David Berry, the cap off the thing, and then Native Orchids of the United States and Canada. So there's tremendous resource there. You won't find this stuff online. this is the library. Most of our library is not online, so keep that in mind, and please help us use it. Another huge increase or modification that we made was building a new database that incorporates the living plants and the preserved collections. So that way we can see, what do we have at Selby Gardens? This is how we do that. So it links all of these data points, collections, and our goal, hopefully next year, is to make more of that available online and outside the institution. But I love this. You could go in there in this database, you could select. So this is all Carl Luer's collections, our founder, and you can see he loved the Andes, he loved Northern South America, did a lot of work in Florida, but he also escaped and did some work in other countries as well. Here's just Venezuela. So you can do a person, you can do a geographical location, and I've done a lot of work in Venezuela, and I can see those dark orange spots, blobs of work that I've done. So it's kind of fun. And I was going to tell, one of the trips that we did down there to the remote area in southern Venezuela was by helicopter, but the funds didn't come through on the right time, and so we were without a helicopter. So I went down to the southern border with Brazil, waiting for the funds to come. They didn't come, and then finally I had to call my wife. She's sitting back there, and I said, "Can you please forward $3,000 to this helicopter company?" And she did, and it worked out. We flew in the helicopter the next day. So all of those dots represent stories and beautiful history that all of us as botanists have experienced. So it's really an exciting thing. So, and we're also doing very, very strong effort to digitize everything. It's kind of hard for some of the objects like the spirit collection, but we have cameras, we have scanners, and we're putting things out online as much as we possibly can. So here's our internal database. You can get pictures of the collection, and we have now things out on Cernic and Global Plants. Those are images that are free for botanists usually to study. But we couldn't do this work without a tremendous number of a group of people. So our research associates, these are basically volunteers that work at other institutions that have affiliated with us. And John was a research associate before Lou was a research associate, and before we hired them. So we tested them out for a while. And interns are also super important group of people. They come in, they work on specific projects, and but volunteers. Who is a volunteer at Selby Gardens? All right, we love you. So here's the numbers, and I'll wrap up with this. And you can see the library is very rich and dynamic source of information and literature. But the numbers are there. So we were saying for a long time, for example, we had 35,000 spirit collections. Well, then Norman, is Norman here? He helped us barcode the collection, and now we know we have almost 50,000. So it's really a matter of just going through the material that we have and seeing that. But what's that say? 2,626 for, I can't read it. Anyway, it's over 250,000 things that you could go into our building or the grounds here, you could touch all of those things. On the right are a number of the digital images that we've done. So it's a tremendous collection that we have here, and I thank everybody. I'm going to now turn it over to Trent Berry, who's going to talk about some work that we're doing here in Florida.
All right, like Bruce said, my name is Trent, and I am a curatorial assistant in the botany department, and I primarily work in the library and the herbarium. And my main interest is in the native plants of Florida. So I'm going to talk about this Florida Plant Rescue Project. The Florida Plant Rescue Project is administered by the Center for Plant Conservation out of California. And then within Florida, it's organized by the Florida Natural Areas Inventory from Tallahassee. And these are all different partner organizations that do the field work for this program. So we have some like Fairchild and IRC, Montgomery in South Florida, Naples, Southwest, us here in West Central Florida, and then Atlanta Botanical, Florida Native Plant Society, mostly in North Florida, and Bach Tower Gardens in Central Florida. So how do we choose the species that we want to collect for this project? Florida has about 3,300 native species, and 240 are considered globally rare. And this 240 number is developed by a NGO called NatureServe, which ranks the status of plants based on their rarity. So they're not necessarily listed by government, which means that the public may not be as aware of them, but importantly, in Florida at least, the listing doesn't actually provide much protection to the plants. For animals, yes, but plants, no. And more than half of these 240 are not conserved outside of their wild populations. And the goal for this Florida Plant Rescue Project is to collect seeds from 5 populations for each of those 240 species. I want to collect from 50 plants that are producing seeds, and that's to collect a wide range of genetic diversity. And we're collecting seeds for seed-producing plants, spores for ferns and related plants. And there's some plants where the seeds don't preserve well, like this pawpaw species. And how do we find the plants once we've decided the species that we want? We use herbaria like Selby's. This is from the herbarium at Oscar Scheer State Park. This is a collection from Oscar Scheer. We use iNaturalist, which has more current mapping, which might not be as precise. And then we do field trips. And this is a plant in the hibiscus family. And sometimes, like for this plant, based on this research, we're pretty sure that it would occur in this area. This other plant is just one that we happen to come across in the field. And then once we've found the plants, we want to ensure that we're looking at the correct species. Sometimes there are minute differences between plants in certain groups. So we use these dichotomous keys. And then we want to mark physically all the individuals in the population. And then we will use a GPS device to collect the latitude and longitude as well. And then we will bag the seed heads with these mesh bags and collect the seeds, bring them back, dry them, remove soil, leaves, other non-reproductive parts, and then we'll send them to facilities like the Atlanta Botanical Gardens and the National Laboratory for Genetic Resource Preservation in Colorado. And they have facilities to store these seeds long-term to preserve the genetic diversity, and they can do viability testing and other things. And we definitely work with a lot of different partners, like the Florida State Parks, Sarasota County and their Environmentally Sensitive Lands Protection Program, the Lemur Conservation Foundation, and Ellen Hyde Center. And there's some challenges in finding the species. So one is what we call phenology, a time of year for vegetative or reproductive growth. So for this legume, in June, you only see the previous year's growth, which is dead. In August, this was a week ago at Mayaca, we see little seedlings starting to grow. And then this is down south at Hope Sound in October, and that's when the plant is flowering and will start to seed. Drought could be a reason why we're seeing more of this the past few years, because of the drought. This is supposed to be a perennial species, but in the past few years, it's behaving more like an annual. And disturbance is another challenge. Mowing and fire can mimic natural processes that are being suppressed by us, humans these days. So those can actually be good for the plants. Development, not so much. Population size, both within a small population, the plants. I said earlier we want to collect 50 plants. Sometimes there aren't that many within a population. And then the species as a whole can have a pretty low population, like this orchid here. And then another problem is herbivory, both for vegetative growth, for things like deer and rabbits can eat that kind of thing before it can flower and fruit, or there's little insect larvae that like to eat the seeds. And then we just wanted to give a shout out to a staff member, Tim, an accountant here who came out in the field with us, and his sister, David Berry, and Craig Kreger, and another person here from Ringling who volunteered and came out with us. And this was for a project collecting this endangered endemic sedge. And we're gonna watch a short video by Craig Kreger now about that event.
Lemur Conservation Foundation was started about 25 years ago by Penelope Boydry Sanders, a famous artist and an author who lives in Sarasota. She was working for the American Museum of Natural History with Professor Ian Tattersall. And he wanted a place for lemurs where they could be bred outside of Madagascar. Lemur Conservation Foundation is primarily a managed breeding facility for these 5 species of lemurs, but we also have a big interest in research, education, and art. We have a small office in Madagascar and a number of full-time staff members where we assist in the management of 2 national parks. Here in Florida, we have 2 primary forests. We have a 100-acre property. And thanks to Selby Gardens, we've actually learned that we have a number of plant species that we didn't know that we had, like this rare beak sedge and a number of other things. But they've also helped us identify the foods, plant foods, that the lemurs are eating in our forests. In 2017, though, we had no idea about the specifics of the botanical makeup on our property. And we asked Selby if they could help us with the botanical inventory of our 2 lemur forests. And that's how it started. And we learned that we have much greater diversity of flora than we imagined, and also that our lemurs are eating quite a lot of species out there.
Today, as part of a statewide initiative with maybe 6 or 7 additional botanical gardens and even a zoo, we're collecting seed of species known to be rare in the wild for seed banking. So we've identified this population here through a previous survey that we did of Rhynchospora megaplumosa, which is the most unassuming plant you can imagine. It's in fruiting right now, so we were here 2 weeks ago to begin the seed collection, and we're hoping that a few more seed would have been produced in the meantime. So that's exactly what we're doing here today. We have everything flagged with a number each. We try to get 50 different individuals and as many seeds as we can collect, but within our limit is 10% of the entire population, just for conservation purposes. This we've seen only in a few other parks and preserves in Sarasota and Manatee counties. So this is a great, fortunately the Lemur Conservation Foundation has provided this buffer that just happens to include some awesome plants that we're interested in. So they were very generous in allowing us to come onto the property. We will hopefully bag another 100 or so seed, and that would add to the seed that we collected previously. So each plant is individually numbered, and then that's recorded and preserved into the seed banking institutions in Fort Collins, Colorado, and at the Atlanta Botanical Garden.
All right, and now I will hand it over to Dr. Sean McCourt to talk about his work on another Florida species.
There's a lot of familiar faces here, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sean McCourt, and I've been staff member at Summer Gardens for over 11 years now. My recurring role as curator of the living collections involves managing all of the data that goes along with our living plant collections, and photos, where the plant came from, all of that kind of stuff. Try and keep it up to date to the best of my ability. Only one person, we have, 17,000 living plants in our collections, so that's what I do. I also facilitate research and exchanges of plant material with other institutions or visiting researchers. I also help the Botany team with some Florida conservation projects like this one. Bruce wanted me to give you an update on our quickly upward conservation project, which involves so basically, for the last 8 years, we've been working on helping to conserve this very rare cactus that's found only in southwest Florida. What in particular, the cactus, does anybody know? It's a tall, columnar, multi-stemmed cactus that grows along coastal habitats. And it's only in southwest Florida, from Thursday and Manatee County all the way down to Sanibel Island in Newtown. Why is it called the Aboriginal prickly apple? Because the man who discovered it, John Coco Small from New York Botanical Gardens, that's the team up in the top picture there. He noted that the cactus tend to grow near Aboriginal songmounds, so he called it Aboriginal prickly apple. The population that he discovered was up at the northernmost population in Manatee County, and his team's carrying out plans to take back to New York Botanical Gardens there. However, all these populations with the black crosses here are now extirpated, which is just a fancy way of saying they're locally extinct. The remaining populations are in red at the bottom here, with all the remains. So just 165 miles south here, and there are fewer than 200 left in the wild. Back in 2006, when a survey was done of all these populations, they estimated approximately 500 to 1,000 plants in just 12 populations. We found 5 more during our study, so there's 17 populations in total. 7 of them are now extirpated. So we visited China Dam, and we estimated 200 plants up in the wild. And unfortunately, the last few hurricanes have really decimated these plants too. So after Hurricane Helene and Milton, we visited the two largest wild populations, Minnesota Beach Park and Brazil Preserve down in Lee County. Minnesota Beach Park had about 80 plants early in 2024, and after Hurricane Helene and Milton went through, we found only 26. And they were all in really bad condition like that. Brazil Preserve, and Bruce and I went down there with some Florida Fish and Wildlife people from Naples, Zoo, Fairchild, and we scoured the whole place. The population used to have 350 plants. We found only 39, which is a 10-fold decrease. The reason being, after Hurricane Ian went over Brazil and took away all the canopy cover, and plants were exposed to the sun. And unlike most cactus, when you think about them, these plants actually don't like too much sun. So other smaller populations are also gone. There were planted historic Spanish Spring campus, that's gone. Some sites still need revisiting, but we now estimate that there are 100 to 150 of them left in the wild. So what can we do to help? Actually, we revisited Minnesota Beach a few weeks ago, and plants are actually bouncing back nicely, as you can see here. And they're fruiting and flowering. So what can we do, what can summer garden do to help the plant? Well, the strongest, more severe storms, we really need to do something. We're going to lose all of those other populations. The goal is to bring as much genetic diversity into conservation as possible so that we have material that we can put back out into the wild. We've had difficulty growing these plants under normal greenhouse conditions or nursery conditions because they're very susceptible to fungal pathogens. So fortunately, we partnered with Florida Gulf Coast University's Ecology and Environmental Science Lab to help us out grow plants in vitro under sterile conditions. And right now, we're maintaining about 200 individuals just from the Sarasota County population, which is more than exists in wild. There's some examples on the table in the back too, if you want to have a look. We've got some in culture, we've got some young plants, and there's food as well. Oops. So what we'd like to do for all of the wild populations that still exist is be able to put them back out in the wild, grow them, so we have to grow them up. And then hopefully we'll see recovery of the species. We started actually doing that. We started putting them back out. In October of last year, just past October, Craig and Bruce and John McCarthy and I went out to Minnesota Beach and spent the day planting 69 plants back out onto the beach to bring the numbers back up to pre-hurricane levels. It was a great day. As you can see in the video I'm about to show you, we hope to be able to do this for all populations. I'll hand her off to Dr. Uri Encarnacion.
Good morning, everyone. As my colleagues were presenting some on Florida projects, I'm going more into the Central America area where Selby also have some projects going on. So here I want to share some, my name is Yulei Encarnacion. I work as herbarium curator, which is basically doing the same thing that Sean does, but with the preserved collection. So we always joke about he lives with living plants and I deal with dead plants. So that's what I do. And I want to show you something really inspiring for most of our colleagues in the region. First, like, what is a herbarium? When I talk about a preserved collection, that's the first thing that people tend to ask. It's a library of plants, basically. It's a collection which represents where a plant grew in a given time period and place. So when we talk about plant diversity, this is the main source of consultation for any region. And why are we talking about a herbarium collection in Belize and how does it interfere with Selby? First, like, some our Selby members, like some our Selby botanists have been working in Belize since 1993. The year that I was born, so long before my existence. So there is a lot of there. But also Belize is a very special place which has a great diversity of the plant groups that we would like to, like that Selby target, which are epiphytes. So like when we are talking about Belize botanical heritage, we need to talk about a herbarium collection. And some of the things that I have been doing since I came here was like, one of my first trips was to Belize, and we went to visit the herbarium, and we found a crisis that was in June 2025. And this crisis basically looked like if you picture a room, like where threads are hypothetical for a library collection, like you'll found tobacco beetles, silverfish, and many other pests that are eating specimens from inside out, basically destroying the whole collection. So this is mostly promoted with mold, humidity, like failing lights. In general, like not the ideal conditions for any preserved or museum collection. So like they also have like a very limiting staff availability, so it was just one staff for a department that also was in charge of dealing with permits for forestry and timber species, so they have other priorities. The herbarium was being used as a storage unit, and that was really a bad condition, which for like all of these threats, what it basically means that every specimen that was eaten by the insects was like a lost page for Belize unique plant history. And there is no second copy anywhere in the world. Sometimes these are unique specimens. And that's why, like in the herbarium, we also do a lot of exchanges. Like when our researchers go to the field, they collect not just a single specimen for our institution, but we also back it up with other institutions in different parts of the world. But sometimes some countries don't do that. They don't have the ability to do it. They don't have the staff. That is not a priority. But this is what we found in June 2025, a collection, a national collection, the one and only in the whole country, was under threat. So what we did was we resisted to urge start fixing things immediately. We need to plan out like how we're gonna do this. So we assessed the collection, we evaluated the infestation with locals, partners like Cave Branch Botanical Gardens, and we identified where our effort will matter the most. And that patience is exactly why what came next moved so fast. So in September 2025, we went back with 10 volunteers from Selby Gardens. And there were a lot of local interest around the herbarium collection as well. And they named themselves the Herbarium Warriors. They even make a really cute plaque on one of their timber species. And that, I love that name because that said exactly what they were at that point. They were not a specialist. They have not, like some of them have never seen a herbarium specimen before. They were just people that understood that they wanted to preserve the botanical heritage, and they just took over. And they show they show every day, like day after day. And let me show you what they did in these days. This was a 5-day visit for Selby Gardens member, but that was a lot of planning and teamwork virtually before we got there. So like we got people from different institutions. We focus on the local community, but we also got some help from some friends at Missouri Botanical Gardens, where Bruce used to work as well. So like they have, we also recruit people from local universities at Belize, botanical gardens, and some birding communities around the city of Belmopan, the capital of Belize, and they get a great effort. So like we got a crowd of 32 people there for 5 days, like just helping to rescue this collection. And what they actually did was amazing. They were mounting specimens, they were helping to clean and sanitize cabinets, they were filing, they were doing all sorts of things. So like by day 1, they have never seen a specimen before, and day 3, they were training each other and just helping things happen. One of our volunteers was on this herbarium as well. Like she even got some, yeah, she was really inspired on helping, but the conditions there were very poor in terms of infrastructure. So here we have some pictures of like what some of the local team at Cape Branch Botanical Garden in the left were doing. Like before we got there, and they were already doing some of the freeze-thaw treatment, which is like freezing cycles to kind of kill pets at that moment. But also they were sanitizing and they were doing all of things. So all of this work not just happened in 5 days, but they were like days and like there were months of collaborations, like virtually, remotely. And this allowed us to come up with the integrated pest management plan, which was implemented. And that was successfully done. After that, they haven't had like much of the infestation. We keep monitoring, like putting traps and see like what was going on in these collections, and it's going really well actually. So the next step was the real challenge, was building capacity, because our goal was not just jump there and do the work. It's like our goal was actually make ourselves unnecessary, so it could be like a real sustainable initiative. Some of the work that we have been doing is like remotely working. Some of their staff came here to visit, to see how we do things and to get some kind of like training in some of the operations that we have at the herbarium. But also we went back there and conduct in-person workshops for local people and people that were helping. We encompassed different topics, but they were very excited about photography. They were very excited about spirit collection, and Lou Jost also helped them a lot with how to collect orchid in a non-destructive way, like non-destructive sampling. When you are in the forest, like that was an amazing time there. We also have this philosophy of just promoting within. Like we really want people from Belize manage their Belize plants and Belize collection. So like this capacity building, we think that creates long-term impact. And also, it promotes and helps next generation to do what they have to do. We are actively collaborating with University of Belize, and some students are doing their bachelor thesis with the herbarium collection, and they are finding meaning on what this collection actually signifies for the country. And here I want to show some of the numbers that they shared when we were there. From January to June, they got a lot of volunteers and staff hours. All of these hours were not paid at that moment, and like these people were just doing amazing. They were really inspired about Selby model, like and how and inspired by the model of like volunteering and how like our volunteers here at the herbarium make things happen. So they were recruiting volunteers and training them, and they got an amazing turnout with hundreds of specimens mounted, filed, identified, and they are moving forward with digitizing their collection. It's just amazing. They have got like funding, they have been in conferences, they recently were with us in the Dominican Republic as well, doing some outreach of what they do. And this was yesterday. They just sent me like this press that they said like this. They sent to the local press like what we were doing, and they just told me this exciting news about joining the digital work already. Like they have some specimens already publicly available on Symbiota, and they have an amazing turnout with their collection. And of course, all of this is like we'll think like, how does it pertain to Selby? Like, why does Selby care about these kind of initiatives? And it runs straight into our strategic plan, like expanding our local branding, but also document epiphyte diversity, is promoting a species recovery and conservation implants in their natural habitats. So the simpler answer for why Selby does do this, like I'll say, like we invest in people, not only in specimens. Collections do not save themselves, but sometimes people need to save them. And this is something that we are doing not just in Belize. This is not the end of the story. We're also expanding this kind of initiative to the Caribbean islands, where we have some partner institutions that are interested in us helping them with their collections and do some of our research. So like any new species and any new discoveries, anything that we want to know starts with the library of plants, which is our herbarium at Selby Gardens. And this is what I want to share with you guys, and then I will just hand this microphone to my dear colleague Lou Jose, which is gonna keep traveling through South America. We start Florida, I stop in Belize, now we go to Ecuador.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you so much. Let me close this. Okay, I'm Lou Jose, and I'm an orchid-taxonomist, but also a mathematical ecologist and population geneticist.
Yes, I did.
Pardon?
I'm at the Selby Gardens.
I think we'll take questions at the end, just in case. So I've just come here from Ecuador. I lived in Ecuador for about 30 years, and it's a big change for me, but a really exciting one, to be part of a team of active scientists. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about the background of my research, which started really in Ecuador. I lived at the edge between the Andes and the Amazon. This is considered the northern Andes. And I lived on an active volcano, actually. This is the view from my yard, and this is the view from my kitchen window. It was very exciting, very exciting. But there was a lesson in this volcano. Why is this volcano erupting? It's because the Andes are a very young mountain range. They're still growing. In fact, we can see them growing with our own eyes. And that's curious because the northern Andes is also one of the most diverse places in the world for plants, even though it's so young. How is it possible that such a young mountain range could have evolved so many species of orchids in particular? That's okay. It was curious to me how this could happen. How could so many orchids evolve so quickly in such a young range? And so I became interested in studying the problem of what controls orchid distributions. And this is a map of my area. This is my volcano right here, that white spot. You can see the crater right there. And in the space of 25 or 30 miles, you get to the Amazon rainforest. And there's all these beautiful mountains here. I decided I would climb all those mountains and map the orchid distributions on each one in the hope that they would show patterns that would give me clues about why they live where they live. And I focused especially on the genus Lepanthes. It's the orchids that are the most fussy about where they live. They're very particular. Many of them have very small ranges. So I thought they would reveal patterns more easily than widely distributed orchids. And these mountains are covered in beautiful cloud forest, perfect for Lepanthes and other orchids, and epiphytes in general. And as soon as I began this project, as soon as I started walking through these forests, I started accidentally discovering new species of Lepanthes that no one had ever seen before, like this one and this one. I found this one under the nest of a giant eagle that eats monkeys. So when you're doing tropical biology, it's not just the thing that you're studying that's interesting, it's all the other stuff around you as well. But I knew that the tops of these mountains would have the best, the most interesting things. No scientist had ever been to the tops of them. And I think even the local people had never been to the tops because they told me about enchanted lakes and mythological creatures that live up there. And I didn't see any of that. But it took me a long time to get to the top, to figure out how to get to the top. It's very steep topography. And I ended up following the trails of large mammals like this mountain tapir and spectacled bears. They make nice trails that humans can follow. And when I got up to those high elevations, about 11,000 feet, I started running into these orchids that I couldn't really recognize. I couldn't even tell what genus they were in, and I'm supposed to know about orchids, so that was kind of embarrassing. They were creeping plants that were continuously flowering. When one flower would die, another one would open. And there was nothing in the books about this. So when I got down from that first trip, I consulted Carl Luer, the intellectual founder of this garden, and he looked at the specimens and he thought they were a new subgenus of a tiny little genus called Tegia, which practically nobody has ever heard of. There were only 6 species in the whole world. But on this one mountain, we found this one, this one, this one, this one, all new to science, all completely new to science. just endless variety, something that's unparalleled in the whole world. And so I made alcohol specimens of all of these, of course. And this is the alcohol specimen of the one I just showed you. They lose their colors, but we can still see the physical structure, and that's what we need to distinguish the species. So Selby preserves these plants forever for future scientists. Here's a family picture of many of the new tegias that were found on those mountains. It's really quite incredible, and we're currently doing DNA analysis to figure out their family tree and to figure out how quickly they evolved. We already have a preliminary result. They evolved in the last, all these species evolved in the last 2.5 million years, which is just a blink in evolutionary time. Very, very interesting. And there weren't just cool orchids on these mountains. We found new species of magnolia tree, the biggest things in the forest. It's not just the little things that were new to science and undiscovered. It was even the biggest things, the biggest trees in the forest. And my colleague, John Clark, who's going to speak next, found lots of new species in his group, the Gesneriads. And it was like this for every specialist who comes to these mountains. We brought many specialists, each knowing a particular family of plants, and every specialist would discover many, many new species in their particular family of plants. And it wasn't just the plants. The orchids had led us to a habitat in a mountain that was so strange that it even had new species of frogs. The first night that I was on the summit, first 2 nights, we found 7 undescribed frogs. And this was the most spectacular one, a neurotoxic frog. The people who handled it, their arms were tingling for the next hour or 2. So this was clearly an area that needed to be preserved. This was, globally important. So my friends and I got together and created a foundation called the Ekominga Foundation to try to raise money to buy the mountains where we had found these incredible orchids. And we used the plants as a hook to make the world aware of this area. Here I am, a younger me, giving a picture to David Attenborough of his tree, a tree that we named after him, a new species that we found in these mountains. And he helped us a lot to raise money to buy these mountains. And we actually did. We bought, this is my house, this is the Amazon, and we've preserved almost all the special habitats in that whole valley, 25 miles, 30 miles. And we not only bought the land, we also integrated the local people into the reserves. Their economy, they get money from the visitors who come to the reserves. The visitors stay in their houses and pay the families directly. And we educate the children so that they'll understand what's special about their backyard, which they previously only thought of as something to be cut down. Now they all really like it. So that's the cool thing about botany. We look at the world through a special lens, the lens of botany, and we can detect these special habitats that other people walk on past and don't even notice. Because we're looking at the individual plants, we can discover new areas that are really important, and then we can use our research to motivate and guide the conservation of those areas. And so, little by little, piece by piece, botanists can save the world. So now, Dr. John Clark is going to talk about his favorite group of plants. Thank you, John.
All right, I'll be quick. I know we're a little over here, so let me get this up. Okay. And present. So, by the way, everything that I'll share with you, you can find on Instagram. I do a lot of videos about what I see in the field, because sometimes it's hard to articulate those things in publications or in writing, so I try to capture that. I've been coming to Selby for a long time. I used to be a Peace Corps volunteer in Ecuador back in the day when there was like Continental Airlines and Pan Am, and you could say, oh, I'm flying through Tampa, so I just want to stay there for 3 or 4 days, then I'll fly up to Newark where my family was. And I would stop here, deliver my collections. And so my collections have been coming here since the 90s. So a lot of the people that have been mentioned, like Carl Lohr, other orchid taxonomists who were here, Harry Luther, I would bring things to them from where I was working as a Peace Corps volunteer in Western Ecuador. And they became part of the permanent collection, which is one of the great things about being here. I started here 3 years ago. But I was stationed to live in Ecuador as a Peace Corps volunteer in this little itty-bitty green spot. And just as you can see, this is a satellite image of what a forested Ecuador would have looked like in the 50s and what it looked like back in 1996. Most of that forest, most of the western lowland forest has been cut down. And this is a good road. It's a good road because you can get a car in and out of here. This is what it looks like. This mud is the only reason that forest was not cut down. And I lived back there. But I spent a lot of time in trees in the 90s. I climbed a lot of trees. And so I used these poles to collect things, air plants, growing other things, sometimes climb a tree. And then this right up here, that's me in a Apostanaceae, Aspidosperma. Chicle is a common name, which means gum. It's related to milkweed. It's a big emergent canopy tree. And I would bring those collections back to Selby. And this is the herbarium. But one of the things that was amazing about working in this area was we made 6,000 collections. Wow. And only 3,600 have been identified. That means there are thousands of collections that have not been identified, and they persist in herbaria like the herbarium here at Selby Gardens and Missouri Botanical Garden and throughout other herbaria. So it's really important. And we find things as botanists, and it takes decades for them to be described. Right here is an emergent canopy tree that was described in the last 5 years. It's called greenheart. And then right next to it is something in the avocado family that's a strangler. So if you think about the tree that represents New College, they call it, what is it, the mighty banyans. This is like a banyan tree, but it's in the avocado family. So when I told the specialist at Missouri Botanical Garden that there is a strangler Lauraceae, like an avocado, he said, "You don't know what you're talking about." He did not believe me, but it's true. And with Ringling College of Art and Design, I had a student who's here, Lena, who illustrated this. And so we're going to try to publish it, or I'm going to try to publish it this year. And that's the time it takes. Sometimes you make the collections, they're there for perpetuity, and eventually they get used for the scientific work. I do a lot of also inventorying. One of the things about a tropical forest that's different than a temperate forest is in a temperate zone you have seasonality. You have winters, and that creates annual rings in the cross-section of a tree. So if you cut a tree down, you can count the annual rings and you can tell how old that tree is. We don't have that in a tropical forest. So we don't have a lot of really good long-term monitoring data about how trees grow. So one of the things you have to do is you have to measure the diameter, then you have to go back 10 years and measure it again. We don't have good data on how many things die, how many things come in. And we also often don't know what's there. So for a long time, I've gone down to places like Ecuador and measured trees. This is a group I went there in 2014. And then I went back in 2026, and I have a student here who's inventorying that, and we're going to hopefully publish those data. Do I have time for a video? I don't know if I have a minute video here. Okay. So one of the things I like to do is when I'm in the field, and often I only do one take, and then I edit the video, so there's some mistakes here, but this shows you sort of the enthusiasm and the excitement and the passion about seeing these plants in the wild, and it's one of the things I really love to do. I love to share that on a social media platform. And so here I am in June.
Look at this right here, Hircia glabrata. All right, I'm here with Tito Recalde. And this guy, he knows a lot about plants. He taught me a lot. I've been working with Tito Mercado since creo que desde 2005, no? Yeah, since 2005. Right here, well, they call it reticulata because the secondary vegetation is reticulate. So it's a little bit raised. See that on the undersurface? But what's really distinctive about it is that it has an elongated peduncle. And at the apex of that peduncle, you see a clusters of flowers. And there's some bracts subtending those clusters of flowers. And that's what you normally see. But you know what? I have never seen this. That's amazing. Wow. And I have to think about that. I mean, what are those things? Are they tubers? Are they fleshy rhizomatous scales? I'm not really sure, but I've seen this plant a lot. But I've never seen this. This is totally amazing. And I like the common name. Huevos de gato. ¡Qué bien! ¡Woo! Oye, en tres, que vivan los huevos de gato. Uno, dos, tres. ¡Que vivan los huevos de gato!
So the thing about, let me just say, how many Spanish speakers are here? All right, so you know what that means. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, that's the cat testicle plant. And those things, check it out, they're galls. And parasitic wasps live in those galls, and the immature phase of the wasp is protected by that gall. And it's in all of them. Never known, not known in the scientific literature. It's those are the sorts of things that we figure out in the field. I also love descriptive taxonomy. Here's some of the things that I published last year. And I'll just show you how beautiful these are. Look at this black flower, or Mosia. We named that after David Neal, my predecessor who passed away a year ago. And it's great to commemorate great people, like Jennifer Romanecki. Here's Drimonia romanekii. Yeah. I mean, that we have a new herbarium here, okay? That is amazing. I tell all my colleagues, we have a new herbarium here at Selby Gardens, okay? And it's just amazing. Here's a new genus, okay? New genera still being discovered. Lots of new species in the tropics. Golandrinensis, I like to promote the flora in areas that are understudied, and I like to go into an area and be able to tell the people who are there, this is important. Like, this plant is only known here, and this is gonna be the thing that you should put on your logo, all right? So the collections are such an important part of what we do here. We have collections so we can preserve the past. The research reveals the unknown, and we can communicate that connection to people through the discovery of what we do here at Selby Gardens, and we can turn that into conservation. And with that, I end. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, John. I think we gave you 2 lectures for the price of 1. So I want to thank the Botany team for all of your incredible work. It's so exciting to see you working behind the scenes. Really amazing. And, you know, just a reminder, plants are important to all life on Earth, right? I mean, it provides 96% of the oxygen we breathe, food, medicine, shelter, clean water, and a cooling system for our planet. And Selby Gardens' role is really to advance plant research to inform worldwide conservation and really build awareness about the importance of plants to life as we know it. So I think today's talk really was about that. So thank you for joining us. I did want to remind you that you get a 10% discount at the Green Orchid Restaurant through October. So hopefully you'll join us over there. You also always get a 10% discount at the Selby House Cafe. So we hope to see you enjoying lunch. Thanks so much for all your support of Selby Gardens and for joining us today.